Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first live broadcast of Muscle Car Appraisal. I'm Jim Murphy, your host, and to my left is Lester Bestenbeck, owner of Muscle Car Specialties. Say hello, Lester.
How's it going, everybody? Pleasure to be here, Jim.
Thank you very much for coming. So, tonight we're going to have a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about some modern muscle, some old school muscle, some things that Lester does at his muscle car specialties business. And we're going to throw out a few trivia questions as well. We welcome questions from our audience and we'll do our best to answer them. And if you stump us, we'll get back to you with a right answer. So for now, something that we picked up this week was the 2019 Camaro ZL1 1LE package is for the first time going to be available with an automatic transmission. Can't wait for this car to come out, and I'm really looking forward to a time around the Nürburgring and see what kind of blazing speed it can pick up. I think it's definitely going to be quicker than the manual. I saw a non 1LE car run the ring, and that 10-speed automatic transmission is just absolutely phenomenal, faster than a human. So with the addition of the automatic into 1LE, we should be seeing some pretty impressive times. Now they're also going to bring that 10-speed automatic into a straight Camaro SS. And it's going to be a first for that car as well. And it's going to be a 6.2 liter, 455 horse car that runs 0 to 60 in 4.1 and runs the quarter mile in 12.4 at 115. That's going to be pretty impressive. Now, to compare that to a Mustang GT is going to actually the Mustang's going to run 12.4, the Camaro SS is going to run 12.5, and then the ZL1 is going to blow them both away. The Mustang's going to run 115.8, the Camaro is going to run 115.2 in super sport trim. So that's going to be some very interesting matchups out on the street. And it's probably all going to come down to who's the better driver because the cars are really close. So those Ford and Chevy guys should be battling out quite a bit. And we're all going to be looking forward to it, not only in the news, but on numerous YouTube channels. So, Lester, let's get to your business.
Sounds good, Jim.
Muscle Car Specialties. Your nice red, white, and blue logo looks fantastic. Where is your shop located?
We're located over on 8 Hayden Ave in Plainville, Connecticut.
Fantastic. And what kind of services are you going to offer at Muscle Car Specialties?
We do everything from complete restorations, interior, exterior, the whole 9 yards. We do insurance claims, body work, touch-up paint, paint matching. Whatever the customer wants, we have the ability to go ahead and do it all.
Okay. And do you have the ability to locate a pretty radical car for a client that has specific needs?
Absolutely. I've got some pretty good feelers out in the industry. I work with a lot of guys all over the country as far as locating cars for clients, specific colors, specific makes. We can offer some alternatives. We can offer to build the car for the customer, whatever they would go ahead and ask for. We can do our hardest to go ahead and produce that for them.
Fantastic. Great. And I understand you had some prior experience working in a chassis shop?
A very, very short time I did.
And currently you own quite a number of cars that can be considered chassis cars, or at a minimum a back half car.
I've got a few. Right now we're doing a full tube chassis car for the street. It's going to be a twin turbo build. We're doing that in conjunction with MPH Fabrication over in North Branford.
And you have somebody that you're doing engine work with?
I've been using Dave over at Cam's Motorsports in Thomaston. I've also used Carlquist Competition Engines in Watertown. They've done a bunch of work for me as of right now.
I've heard of both. Great reputations, capable of making some big power.
They've been good. They've been really good. No complaints. We haven't had any disappointments over dynos sessions or anything. So we're happy, and the motors are staying together, which is the biggest thing.
Absolutely. You drive any of your personal cars on the street?
I drive them all on the street.
Great.
Doesn't matter from my pro mod car to my I have a '68 Chevelle that my wife drives. We drive them all.
Fantastic. So let's take a look at the first car, which is a 69 Camaro, dark blue in color. Tell us a little bit about this car.
Oh, that car's got a 572 in it. Has a single stage system on it. Your typical, mid '90s, late '90s back half car. 10-point cage in it. It's got an 850 cert to it. Relatively mild car for the street, to be honest with you. It drives really well.
Great. Speaking of certifications, the chassis builder that you work with, he has the ability to have his work certified for NHRA competition, I would assume.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the twin turbo build we're doing right now will be getting certified this coming up week. The NHR will be down there and he'll be doing that. Mike has got several world record holder cars and all kinds of stuff. He's pretty known in the import world, and he's been making a stab at getting into the pro mods and the American cars a little bit.
Fantastic. So ultimately, if somebody's looking for a certain year, make, and model, they can contact you. And ultimately, you can build them a turnkey car: body, paint, chassis, engine, transmission, the whole nine yards.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And how would somebody contact you?
Well, you can go ahead and hit up our website, which is musclecarspecialtiesllc.com. You can go ahead and hit our Facebook page up, or go ahead and contact me right here on the show.
Fantastic. Yeah. If somebody contacts me at musclecarappraisal.net, you can pick up my email there. And if you need to contact Lester, just give a shout out to me, and I'll be happy to contact Lester.
Question, Joe.
Oh, we have a question. What do we got, Bob? Good question, Camaro Time. Thank you. By the way, thanks for stopping by. I had a friend come to my house when I was 14 years old. He gave me a ride in his 68 Camaro. Right in front of the police station, pulled a whole shot, power shifted second gear. I went from being nervous to terribly excited, and I was hooked. Been a gearhead ever since. Worked at a gas station, did some body work to learn that end of the industry. Was doing service work on all the neighbors' cars in my neighborhood, plus a whole bunch more. It made my dad really nervous. Um, and I knew I wanted to be employed in the automotive field somewhere, but I was also very specific as to where I wanted to be. And I learned about being an appraiser for an insurance company, and it was sounded great, very intriguing. So I pursued that. And back in the mid 80s, I started work for a major insurance company. Started at the bottom, worked my way up, and made it out onto the road as an appraiser. And that was, let's just say, 1985, 1986, some maybe three quarters of the way through the year. And I've never stopped. Always had a passion for the muscle cars ever since that ride in that 68 Camaro. And recently, I was able to approach a Y in the road. And I could either stay with the insurance company side of things or move on to the muscle car side of things. And boom, here I am. Smile is this big for the muscle car side of things. And I wake up every morning excited to be able to go to work. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh,
Got another question, Joe.
another question from Bob.
It is from Big D Chopper.
Big D Chopper asks,
Have you heard about GM that the Corvette is turning into a mid-engine car? Do you think it would be a good idea?
Big D Chopper asks, have I heard about the upcoming Corvette C8 turning into a mid-engine car? And what do we think about that? I've got quite a bit of information on that. Number one, it looks like the introduction is going to be delayed until very late in the year. I was able to see an internal memo from GM last week, which gave production dates for 2020 vehicles. And it listed Buicks and Cadillac and Chevrolet. But then when you look at the Corvette, was at the bottom of the list, it said TBD, to be determined. So there's no exact production date or release date for that car. All kinds of things over the internet, spy photos, cars running around in different parts of the country. So it's definitely coming. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. And a mid engine car, it's probably a long time coming. Corvette's always been considered a supercar, very reasonably priced compared to some of the exotics. And I think moving to a mid engine is just going to push it over the top. There's been speculation of the price getting very unreasonable, but I don't think Chevrolet is going to do that. I think they're going to keep the car affordable, especially when you consider your bang for the buck. Great question. Thanks for asking, and thanks for watching.
Got another question from Land Sea Air Canada.
Land Sea Air Canada has a question for us.
Says, who drove the M/T Mustang AA/FC?
That's a good question. I don't remember the gentleman's name that raced that car. If you can type that in, Bob will read it for us, and we'll be happy to shout it out to everyone. So while Bob's reading some more questions.
Got another one.
Oh, here comes another one. Moto Map Man wants to know,
what was your favorite car that both of you guys have ever owned?
Oh, why don't you take that one first, Lester? I've been yakking away here.
Favorite car that either one of us has ever owned.
Okay.
I don't know about you. I'll be honest. It was a 1986 Buick Grand National. I had the guys at Rankin Automotive when they were up there. We put injectors in it, fuel pump, and I drove that car on the road, and it was just a fantastic car. Absolutely mint, original car, never been crashed, never painted anything. And unfortunately, my first daughter came along, and the car went south.
Understood.
Yeah, someday, who knows? Maybe we'll do another one.
And I can completely understand your love for that car. I happen to own an 87 Grand National, like yours, virgin, unpainted. Haven't modified it in any way, shape, or form. But I have plans for that car. Now I just need the time to make it happen. My own personal favorite is probably going to be the car that headlines my website, the 1970 and a half Ram Air 3 Trans Am 4-speed. I chased that car for 13 years. I knocked on that gentleman's door every spring and every fall. Roger, do you want to sell the car? Nope, not ready yet. Roger, do you want to sell the car? Nope, not ready yet. Finally, after 13 years, he called me up, and I had just 2 weeks earlier bought a 68 Chevelle SS 396 375 horse car, black on black 4-speed. Roger rings my phone. Jim, you ready to buy the car? And I said, oh boy, Roger. I said, your timing couldn't be worse. Can you give me 2 weeks? I'll be there. And he said, absolutely. 2 weeks later, I just went to his house, paid the bill, drove the car home. Never test drove the car or anything. I knew everything about that car because I spent hours with him over 13 years. And I was working at a Performance Centers of America store. It was a speed shop, and Roger was a customer. So he had bought shocks for the car. He had bought a set of roller rocker arms for the car. So again, I knew everything that was going on with that car. And when the day came, I just pulled in his driveway, paid the bill, turned the key, and away I went. Absolutely fantastic driving car. It runs phenomenal. No skips, sputters, stalls, shifts like butter. Plenty of power. That Ram Air 3 revs right to 6,000 without an issue. Radial tires and KYB gas adjust shocks. give me an absolutely fantastic ride. And it's with disc brakes in the front. Uh, it'll stop on a dime. I don't know if it's going to give me change back, but it most certainly outperforms a four-wheel drum brake car by far. So I got to say, of all the cars that I own, it's going to be the Trans Am is right at the top of my list. And that's probably why I made it the headlining car on my website. And on this backdrop that we have here is what I use for car shows. Down in this corner is a picture of my car. But considering that the Chevelle and the Challenger are much more eye-catching, I put them up at eye level for people at car shows to stop by my vendor booth and ask questions about the appraisal business and process. So, another great question.
Ultimate Fishing Show repeat.
Ultimate Fishing Show's got a question for us.
Wants to know what about the 1967 Shelby GT500? Repeat the question.
He wants to know about the 1967 Shelby GT500. I'm going to assume you were maybe talking about that Super Snake car that we had a video on, or maybe you're just talking about a regular GT500. But that Super Snake car sold hammered at $2 million at the Mecum auction in Kissimmee this past January. Absolutely phenomenal car. That car was restored absolutely perfect. Not under restored, not over restored. Things were exactly like day number one. They even found a set of factory issue tires. Carroll Shelby was a dealer for Goodyear Tire Company, and they asked him to test a certain tire, and that car was his guinea pig for the test. That car ran 500 miles straight, obviously stopping for fuel to test those tires. Again, we have a video specific on that car that gives you all the background on it. And at the end of that 500-mile test, if memory serves me correctly, those tires had 97% of their tread life left. Running it hard for 500 miles, average speed, I believe, of 140, top speed 170. Those tires were phenomenal. And the car was even better. No glitches, no mechanical issues. That thing just ran hard, max RPM for 500 miles straight. Check out our video specific for that car. And again, another great question. Thanks for asking.
Camero Time has a question for you, but before you get to it,
Camero Time's got another question, but before we go there,
I want to thank Jim from Video Call and Show for being our producer tonight.
okay. Tonight, this show is being produced by Jim at Video Call and Show. Absolutely phenomenal guy. Has a great show every night, 10 o'clock, live on YouTube. We encourage everybody to stop by. Got a different subject to talk about every night. Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you stop by and check out Jim's show. He is the reason why we are live this evening. Absolutely fantastic guy. We cannot thank him enough for making this happen.
Also, okay, here's the question from Camero Time for both of you guys.
Okay, here comes another question for us.
To have someday? Repeat the question.
What type of car do Lester and I hope to have one day? I'm going to go first on this one. I'm really liking a Bentley GTC convertible. 12 cylinders, twin turbo, 550 plus horse, all-wheel drive, just super luxury. Press on the pedal and you're going to be moving along. Even though the car's heavy, that thing's going to boogie right along. When I got to make long highway trips, I think I want to be in that car. I'm not sure I'm going to put the top down, but when you do, the car looks absolutely phenomenal. So I think that's where I'm going. How about you, Lester?
I tell you, Jim, my entire life I've always been a gearhead, always been a musclehead all the time. Always wanted a specific car, and believe it or not, I'm lucky enough to be building that car right now.
Fantastic.
So I have a 69 Camaro, like I said, that we're doing a twin turbo 598 build on it. It's going to be a street car, completely steel, no carbon fiber, no fiberglass, nothing. Steel car, 6.0 cert, and I'm going to drive this thing on the street.
Certified to run 6.0s and it's going to drive on the street.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to have to make a video of that car.
By all means, please do. We've got some different shirts. We've got actually, if you go onto our website, you'll see the rendering for the car and everything else. All my years when I was a kid, I couldn't afford anything and always kind of dreamed on building something like this, and we're going to make it happen.
Fantastic.
I'm a simpleton in life, I guess.
So, speaking of cars, for you, let's move on to another one of your cars, and we'll talk about that one. You have a 1970 Nova. It's a Yankel clone.
Yep.
I think we have a couple photographs of this car for our
Let's
viewers.
bring 'em up.
So, how many cubic inches does this car have?
That car's got a 565 in it. It's got a Brock square port heads, a dart intake. It's a relatively mild motor. It's 10.5 to 1. A little aggressive on the camshaft. It's got an 800 lift, 295 duration in it. It's T&D shaft rocker system in it. It's got a three circuit dominator in it. Car's fun to drive, good street manners. We just did a tire and wheel update on the car and a rear brake update as well in the car. We have bead locks on it now. The car didn't have bead locks on it before, so we actually had a 12 and a quarter inch rear disc. So we went to another set of aerospace rears on that, and just driving around. That's actually down at the house in Florida, believe it or not. That's our vacation car to cruise around with.
I suppose in that car they might hear you before they see you.
Yeah, it's a fun. It's full exhaust in the car, so it's not too loud. It's nice to drive.
Okay, let's move on to your next car. 1970 Chevelle, maroon, black stripes. Here we have a nice left front 3/4 of this car. We have a couple other pictures as well. Tell us a little bit about this car.
That car's got a 632 with a Sledgehammer 2-stage system in it. That car I have not had to the track. That's supposed to be going this year. Unfortunately, between my various businesses, it's getting driven here and there a little bit, and that's going to be about it. I wish I had more time to enjoy it. It's got a UDX computer system in it. It's got computerized dash. That's an 850 certed car. Best of all worlds as far as that build goes. That's a really cool car. We take it to a lot of local street cruises and cruise nights and everything else.
Actually, I've seen you on the street with that car. Very docile, great manners.
Yeah, it runs really well. I'm really surprised. We dynoed that motor at the Flywood, made just over 900 horse on it, and believe it or not, it's actually pretty docile on the street.
That's another 3-circuit carburetor car.
Yep.
Lester's got a really good carburetor guy that can bring some really good manners to the car for drivability out on the street. So let's move on to something that a customer brought into your shop for work. This is going to be a 57 Chevy. And if memory serves me correctly, this is one of the New York Street Outlaws cars.
Yes, the Long Island Street Outlaws guys. Yeah, it's the car is called White Lightnin. It's 57 Chevy. Mark Marco up at MRC was doing a bunch of updating on the car, and we were lucky enough. He gave us a holler to go ahead and paint the front chassis on the car, the firewall, update some of the paint on the car. We just finished the wing for it as well. We dropped that car off to him. We had that car back in 4 days for him. He was on a bit of a tight budget and a tight timeline. So we got that car done, dropped off to him, and I believe that he's just finishing up and getting ready to deliver that car over to Long Island as soon as we get the wing, which is going to be going up there tomorrow.
Fantastic. Yeah. Pounding that thing out in 4 days. That's some customer service for you.
Well, Mark's good. We do a lot of work together with him. We like Mark. We've known him a long time. It's nice to work with one of the best guys in the industry.
Yeah,
We're lucky.
Mark produces some very good chassis right out of the box. These cars 60 foot like crazy on the drag strip, run the number on the top end, and run straight and true. Google Marco Race Cars, MARKOW. Give a shout out to Mark. We've both known him for a long time. Great guy, great chassis builder, knows his geometry, knows how to get it done the right way. So now I have pictures here of something in progress, and I believe this is the Chevelle that you had mentioned that your wife drives.
My wife's car.
Your wife's car.
Yeah.
Your wife's car. Your wife's got a pretty nasty car.
She drives it around with my 3.5-year-old in the back of it.
So this is where you are putting a cowl hood on the car.
Yeah, we
And
had a lift-off cowl on the car and it was a pain in the butt to go ahead and get to it and service it. So we reached out over and picked up a bolt-on 4-inch cowl on it. We did the paint match on on the car, original turquoise blue was a coat on it. So took care of that. She's happy. That's all that matters.
that might have been code. That looks like code K on that car. But you know,
I'm
there it
not sure, to
is.
be honest with you. Rob did,
Uh,
Rob matched the paint on that one.
and that's kind of my job to figure out paint codes. Um, so you know, there you have it, folks. That's a car in progress at a shop. And speaking of cars in progress in your shop, we have one more. This is a Nova that a customer brought in. Cars in primer. What are you guys up to with this car?
67 post car. Local guy, had a lot of cruise nights and everything else as well with it. The car came to us. It was supposed to be ready for paint. Wasn't quite ready there, so we're actually went ahead and stripped the roof. Took care of the sides. We had to do some fitting on the rear bumper. Not too bad. New hood on it. We have to go ahead and trim the fiberglass hood to fit, so all the gaps and seams are nice on the car. So we're about 65%, 70% of the way done with that car as of right now. Hoping to have that car fully in primer block next week and get some paint on it.
Believe it or not, I could actually see by the tape that your man Rob had uh, on the front of that hood was he was sizing it up to uh, make some straight lines and even gaps front to rear. I'm familiar with the process. Again, that's part of my job to know this type of stuff. After 35 years of writing collision damage estimates and doing body work on my own, hey, I got good eyes. So,
You learned a thing or two, huh?
yeah, a couple things I learned. We have one more car for you. This is another service that you had mentioned earlier. Somebody had brought you a Malibu that was in an accident. It's a big block car driven out on the street. We can see here it came in and you're taking care of the collision damage for this customer.
Yeah, this car is a little bit of a pain in the butt, to be honest with you. It's a 1980, so it's a 1-year car, 79 and 80 as far as the grill and the radiator support and everything else. And so finding parts has been a little bit difficult. Aftermarket, there's nothing out there. So we located another nose up in Boylston. Well, I think it was Boylston, Massachusetts. We're going to pick up that tomorrow. We've taken it apart. He actually wanted to paint the frame painted and some other things done. We're doing a motor tranny swap in the car. He wants to go ahead and update that as well. So another local guy hits up a lot of local cruise nights and car shows and everything else. So it'd be nice to get this car back on the street for him within the next month or so.
That sounds like one of those typical, hey, while you're in there.
Oh, that's happened several times already on this car. And I think there's more coming, to be honest with you.
It happens to more than people would want to admit.
Customer's always right. Got to do what they want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Make your list and we'll get it done for you. Again, Lester's able to pretty much make you a turnkey car in just about any level that you want. You want a 6-second certified NHRA drag strip brawler? Yeah, Lester can make that happen. You got a car that you drive out in the street to cars and coffee, cruise nights, drive-in car shows, can take care of that. And then, of course, if you have some collision damage, obviously being here in Connecticut, probably your collision damage car is going to be from the local people. But if you're looking for a serious chassis car, Lester can get that done. Again, muscle car specialties. Also, if you're looking to buy a car, because Lester's had so much experience reviewing cars, throwing away all the cars that were hacked together, the unsafe cars, cars built on the cheap. He's got a lot of experience with that. So, you can send him on a mission, contact him, give him a list of mandatory items, things that you need, things that are acceptable, not acceptable, and he'll get it done. He can locate a car, he can give you the information. He has places in Connecticut and in Florida. He's got a dually and a very nice enclosed trailer. He can provide transportation services up and down the East Coast. Would you swing west if somebody had the demand?
Whatever it takes.
There you go, folks.
We've been out to Arizona once and Illinois twice.
Oh, okay. There you go, folks. He's probably got GPS and he'll plug in your address and he'll get there. So,
Question before we bring Victor Sane on.
another question. What a rip, Bob. Gear Vlogs wants to know.
The price of the 1995 Ford Cobra Mustang will ever start to climb. Repeat the question.
Gear Vlogs wants to know if the price of a 1995 Mustang Cobra is ever going to climb. In my opinion, yes. You've got to give it some time. What 2 years was the Terminator Cobra? Was that 93, 94, or 94, 95? I'm not remembering.
I'm not 100% sure, but I
I
believe
got
it
a lot
was
of things in my mind,
92,
and every once in a while you get some brain fade. So if it is not a Terminator car, but yet the simple fact that it's a Cobra, I would expect a rise in value if the car was stock. Just if the car is a virgin, I would leave it alone. And that's where you're going to see a rise in value. Heavily modified car, people get a little sketchy on those because they don't know the history. You can give them a listing of all the hardware and everything else, but did you hammer this car to death? Did you take really good care of it? There's just a lot of unknowns. So from a collector standpoint, I would leave it stock. Going to have to wait a little while. But yeah, we're seeing stuff in the mid 80s, Trans Ams and Z28s starting on the rise. So the 95 Mustang Cobra is probably a little ways away. But you probably give it 5 to 10 years and you're going to see a market increase, especially for a very well kept virgin car. Because as time goes on, they themselves are going to become more rare. Because again, as time goes on, they're going to be bought, sold, traded, modified. So those true virgin cars. And it's the same thing in the Toyota Supra world. A virgin Supra is bringing 6-figure. Outrageous. Modified cars just aren't there. So with that being said, there's a lot of questions for market value, and we're happy to address them all. Running out a little bit of time here, we have another guest to bring on the show. Muscle Car Appraisal is part of a community called #InsaneFriends. Victor Sane is the headmaster of that group, and we're going to give a big shout out to Victor, and we're going to bring him onto the show with us here live tonight remotely. And he's a big-time transmission guy, an ASC certified mechanic. So if our audience has a couple transmission questions, we'll be happy to take those, and Victor will be happy to give you an answer. Speaking of shout-outs, we'd like to give a big thanks to Derek from Kohl Outdoors. He spent quite a bit of time with us yesterday, helping to work out some hardware issues, and with his help, another reason why we're able to be here this evening with Jim from the video call-in show. Without him, we wouldn't be here this evening. So again, check out Jim. So Victor should be hiding in the wings somewhere, waiting to come on board. All right. Okay, but first, before we bring in Victor, he has a group of friends, and they all have their own YouTube channels where they're live during the week. So we're going to play you a quick clip showing you the schedule for this group of #InsaneFriends.
Hello. Muscle Car Appraisal is part of a YouTube community support group called #InsaneFriends. Our members have live streams 6 days a week. We'll show you the schedule. We ask that you stop by the live stream, visit, and show your support. On Mondays, we have One Wheel E at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And oh, by the way, all of these shows are timed by Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday is Bubsification, 9 o'clock. Wednesdays, Sane Auto at 7:30 p.m. and Muscle Car Appraisal at 9 p.m. Thursdays, you have Dorito and Luca Cobra at 9:30 p.m. and Easy 2 Tips, Tricks, etc. from 10:30 to 12. That's for all you night owls. Make sure you stop by and show your support. Then on Saturday, you have Chopper's Rule 1 at 6:30 p.m. and Fab Automotive Detailing at 9 p.m. Again, all these times are Eastern Standard Time. On Sunday, Sane Auto at 7:30 p.m. and Gregory Salvatore at 9 p.m. So stop by, watch the live streams, and show your support. And of course, we thank everyone for watching and showing support to the hashtag Insane Friends group.
Well, hello, Victor. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Hello, Jim. It's great to be here.
I see you have your wife, Carol, queen of the car scene, with you.
Yep, that's her, queen of the car scene when she's not being queen of the insurance scene. Queen of the insurance scene by day, queen of the car scene by weekend.
Yeah, it's my super power.
You're not wearing a cape by chance, are you?
Under the dress, yes.
Under the dress, you have your cape. Well, again, Victor, thank you very much. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for all your crew backing us up, giving us support. And, you know, we've noticed quite a few of them were there. Some of them bringing some questions to us. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your automotive background?
First, I want to touch on something you said about the hashtag Insane Friends. We also really appreciate them, and we thank you for showing appreciation for them too. They have made us worldwide. You know, like you said, with us and then Gregory Salvatore on Sunday, it goes pretty much around the world and ends up in Australia with Chopper's Rule on Saturday. So we're literally broadcasting live from somebody's channel every day from some part of the world all the way around the world. And we appreciate these guys. And you, like you said, they're most of them are here in the live right now. And every time somebody lives, they're there supporting. And every time they're live, they're supporting us, just back and forth. Just a lot of cooperation and support. Now on our channel, we started out doing mostly repairs, but then we grew into doing repairs, tool reviews, featuring car shows and show cars, hot rods, mod rods, even slammed vehicles, the SoCal stuff, even though we are on the East Coast. And we mostly hit car shows and cruise-ins from Chattanooga and Dalton area, but we do go as far north as Gatlinburg, which if you're in the car community anywhere on the East Coast, you've heard of some of the great stuff in Gatlinburg. And we'll go as far south as North Atlanta, where my mom still lives. And there's a whole lot of really great car people here in the area and a lot of incredible, interesting cars to see. Our favorite ones to hit are the ones that support children's charities and veterans charities. We also like to shout them out during our Sane Sunday live show. We go over a calendar of events for the local events and shout them out, try to get them more traffic so they can get more donations and support for those children's and veterans charities. And then we go, of course, go over the hashtag Insane Friends live calendar and shout out everybody else in our group and their lives. And on Sundays, we have the car trivia and stuff. Then on Wednesday nights, like we had our show earlier, we usually have a guest, kind of like what you got now, and the way you're, having us. Tonight was Streetcar Live. It was also big in the local community. But we've got people in the hashtag Insane Friends that are hitting the car scene in North Carolina and Detroit, Michigan, and you're in Connecticut, is that right?
Yes, we are.
And you got some incredible footage in Florida, too. Just love that footage you got in Florida. Amazing stuff at the auction. And great information with every car you filmed. Just awesome stuff.
Well, thank you. There's more coming from that end. I have more footage of more cars and more information. So car show season is right around the corner here. So we're going to get some stuff fresh. There may be a couple more videos coming from the Mecum auction that I attended in Kissimmee. Yeah, that is an absolutely fantastic auction. A lot of footage. Almost used up all my storage space in the phone with everything that I videoed. But we have to edit a couple things, and you'll see some more of that coming in the future. So you have a pretty strong background in automatic transmissions. And also you're selling parts on eBay. I have a curiosity question about that. What, of all the transmissions you were building, did you ever get into some really high horsepower stuff, that'll actually live on the street? I'm sure you were watching the beginning of the show where Lester was describing cubic inches, horsepower, some of the radical stuff he's driving on the street. Did you ever get into a transmission that was living behind something that strong?
Actually, I mostly avoided the racing stuff. I have a brother-in-law that built racing engines down the street from us, and it is the last surviving engine builder in the Chattanooga area. There are no more engine builders there, except it's called Race Engine Design. Some people call it RED, RED, Race Engine Design. They are still there building engines, really high horsepower engine. But I stayed out of the racing end of it. Number one, for a selfish reason, because most of the racers in the Chattanooga area, unlike Atlanta area and stuff, they were wanting to do everything on a budget. And I was the second largest transmission rebuilder in town, and also one of the two highest priced transmission builders in town as well. So, but we did really high quality work, and in order to do that high quality work, we had to put a lot of parts and a lot of really high quality parts in there. A lot of the people didn't want to pay for that, which doesn't really make any sense with racing. You got to pay to play, is what they say in Atlanta. Then the Chattanooga market, it was a little bit different. But what we did that was similar to that, and it had a lot of the same similar updates and upgrades and work, was a lot of guys with businesses did a lot of towing. And like we did a lot of fleet accounts with big names like Sears and Roebuck, FedEx, Comcast. I had a whole book full of pictures of these big fleet vehicles on our lifts. We even built transmissions for one of the bigger parts store chains that sell transmissions, but they wanted better transmission in their delivery vans that would last with all that weight. And instead of putting their own transmissions in there, they would come to us and we'd build their transmissions. So what we're doing a lot of the same heavy duty upgrades that you would do in racing transmissions in order to make those be able to carry all that extra weight and tow at the same time, including of course, putting the external coolers and higher amp alternators and things like that you would have with a factory tow package. That some of these vehicles didn't have because they didn't have the factory tow package, or they did have the factory tow package, and you look at the factory external cooler and it looked like a little power steering cooler or something. So you take that off and put a decent sized cooler on there. But yeah, most of the really good upgrades were internals. And of course, doing mostly fleet and stuff, the GMs would be the most frequent ones to come in, most frequent flyers. Actually, Chrysler was the most frequent flyers, but there was a lot of retail on the Chrysler end as well. Most of the big fleets would have mostly Fords, then some GMs, and then a few Chryslers in their fleet because they didn't want a lot of downtime. But the 4L60s, 4L60Es, stuff like that, we did a bunch of mods to them. The Fords didn't seem to need as many mods, but just pretty much from end to end, we were changing something on those 700 R4s, the 4L60Es, you know, put the big 29 element forward sprags in them with the hardened steel rings in the pumps, 13 vane pump upgrades, all kinds of stuff. Wide Kevlar bands on the reverse input drum because that's your 2-4 band. But if you did wide Kevlar band, there was stuff like if you did wide Kevlar band, you wouldn't want to do a Corvette servo and a wide Kevlar band at the same time on most. If it was full race, but if it's street strip, something like that, it'd be too much if you do that, especially if you fix all the problems with like the accumulator pistons and pin wear that you can't see. But if you start really playing with them, you'll notice they've got wear on them. You lose a lot of pressure there. You fix all that kind of stuff and also do all those upgrades at the same time, you might run into a little bit of trouble.
Gotcha. So you had mentioned that you have trivia questions on your Sunday night show?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, great. We have a couple trivia questions we're going to try and squeeze in this evening. And I think the first one is going to be, in 1965, Chevelle had a Z16 model. It was a 396, 375 horse. And it was the 65 was the first year for the 396, was available in a Corvette, and it was available in a Chevelle. There's something specific about that 1965 version that was very different than the 1966 version. Curious as to see how many of our hardcore muscle car enthusiasts out there can pick up. There's just one, I'll give you a hint. It's an internal item inside the engine that was very different in design from 65 to 66. And while we're on the subject of trivia, because we're getting fairly close to the end of the show, we certainly want time for people to respond. Another question, 1970 AAR CUDA. They were all 340 tri-power cars. There is something specific about a windshield wiper motor on an AAR that is different than a straight 70 CUDA. And it's specific to the AAR tri-power setup. So let's see how good our muscle car audience is to pick up what is different on an AAR car versus a non-AAR car. So, Bob, do we have an answer already?
Somebody says oval port closed heads.
Okay. 65 should have been a square port head for 375 horse. Lower horsepower, most certainly oval port closed chamber head. But there's something else going on inside the engine.
383 Chevy Stroker.
383 Chevy Stroker. No, it was a 396 big block engine.
They want to know straight or stripe trans.
Street or strip trans. They were available with a 4-speed. You can get an M21, an M20 in it, but we're looking for something specific to the internal of the engine. And they made a major change for 1966. So, Bob, you got any other answers for us?
Not right now, but you should invite them to if they're in the area.
Yeah, I was trying to answer that. I don't type so fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the question, Carol?
Well, she asked what got me interested in cars, and I was just trying to explain that a friend of mine, when I was in 8th grade, her father gave her a 1965 Mustang. It was gold and so shiny and so pretty. And it sounded like thunder. And I mean, that car has been my dream. I've had my tragic story. We won't go into it because I'll cry. But that car started me down the road of the sound, the smell, it's just something you can't describe.
And how old were you when you came upon that car?
I was in 8th grade. So I'm thinking about 15, 14, somewhere around there.
So you got hooked into the scene by a Mustang, and I got hooked into the scene by a Camaro.
Mm-hmm.
And I got really, really lucky because I found a wonderful woman that when I was a teenager put up with me building motorcycle engines and stuff in the living room floor.
I don't know who that was.
And I have improved a little bit, and I have all these buildings and garages and everything, and I still have car parts and stuff in the house. But luckily, I have learned to at least. I have fewer parts in. Yeah, she could reach her hand. She could literally reach her hand out, and tools and parts. Our miniature. They're everywhere, but not nearly as bad as they used to be. But yeah, there's still a few in the kitchen, a few in the dining room, and we have this beautiful, very nice
farmhouse.
House, and I still can't quit bringing car parts in with me.
That's okay. I have my Batman.
Yes, she does. She has her
case.
whole big display case full of Batman stuff. With, of course, the centerpiece. Guess what the centerpiece is? Keep in mind, it's Bat stuff.
She doesn't have a Batmobile in the house, does she?
She does. She has a Batmobile.
There's a Mustang in that case, too.
Yes, she has the Mustang in that case, too. A 66.
So, Victor, every time you bring in a load of car parts into the house, do you got to bring a bouquet of flowers as well to keep yourself out of the doghouse?
No. See, I tell you, I am so lucky. I am so lucky. I don't even have to bring the flowers or nothing in there.
Well,
So-
there's probably a lot of guys that want to know if she has any sisters.
She does.
That, too.
She does. But I got the good one. It's too late. I done got the good one.
Oh, well, I'm sure your sister-in-laws are just fine.
Yeah.
So, another transmission question for you.
Mhm.
If somebody contacted you and wanted to do a complete overhaul on a transmission, do you have the stuff to put together a kit and send it to them?
Like one of those big box kits for complete rebuild that they could rebuild themselves.
Yeah.
No, I don't carry that complete a selection because I haven't been restocking any of my parts. At this point, I still have over $1 million in inventory.
Wow.
And I just leased out one of my buildings, which is 6,800 square feet. And so I've been moving inventory out of that building. Next is another 2,400 square foot building that will be gone because I've been given an offer that I can't refuse in a very positive manner.
Yeah.
And so I will, next month, after this month, when I'm done cleaning out that 6,800 square foot building, I will start cleaning out that other building, which has 13-foot high shelves full of transmission parts. I'm moving that stuff into the building I have down here, and I've got a couple of trailers. And of all things, a retired Delta Airlines shuttle bus stacking full of parts that just arrived yesterday. And so I am, in addition to selling the parts all over the world, I am literally loading up the parts van, the infamous parts van that has been seen on the channel a couple of times, loading that up every day. And sometimes I'll load it up every other day, because sometimes I'll load it up so much with the trailer on the back that it takes me another day just to unload it. But I try to do loading it up in the morning and unloading it in the evening. And until I get this inventory down, I'm not restocking anything. But I do have a lot of kits. I do have a lot of hard parts. But right now at this point, every time I try to put something together as a complete huge package where you could just build one from one end to the other with the bushings, the overhaul kit, the shift kit, all the hard parts you need, the upgrade parts and everything together, there would always be something missing out of my inventory.
Okay.
So I've got to do something about that before I can do any more expanding. But I'm already selling as much as I can handle at this point. The internet is just amazing for having your business.
Wouldn't the weight for one of those kits be astronomical?
Yeah, the weight would be really bad, and the size of it too gets you into some really bad shipping costs.
And most of those parts would try to break through the boxes.
Well, you wouldn't want the hard parts in the same kit, same shipping box with the new parts like the overhaul kit and your new clutches and all that other stuff either. That would also be a nightmare.
Ran into that situation yesterday. I inspected a turbo diesel engine in a Kenworth, and it had a broken piston, which then sent a rod through the block. And ultimately, the cause of this was a piston failure. They shipped a new sleeve with the piston inside the sleeve, and then the piston rings on the side, all in the same box. So that piston was bouncing around in that sleeve during shipping. And like Carol said, the box was really beat up when it arrived at the shop. So much so that they sent the sleeve back because it was unusable. But the company that supplied felt that the piston was good. Well, after a few hours, after break-in, trucks out on the road, and kaboom, that piston that was in question from the beginning is the one that just decided to explode. Stopped the truck dead in its track, big fireball. The guy, truck driver's lucky. He didn't get burned up, and he was actually able to get out and put out the fire with a fire extinguisher and basically save the truck. Now he's back to square one. Needs another sleeve, another piston, actually a whole new block, because he ventilated that with the connecting rod. So, yeah, I can understand the shipping thing. Just like your wife said, they're heavy, they're bulky. Can't pack them all together. Boxes get beat up, being thrown around. But if somebody needed to reach out to you for parts, what's your recommendation for them to? Do you have an email address you want them to use, or contact?
I'm easiest to find on Facebook as just Victor Sane on Facebook. We also have Sane Auto Facebook page. We're on Twitter, and we of course have the YouTube channel. You can just put a comment in any of our videos. We look at all the comments. We check all the comments every day. We check comments, and but fastest reply would probably be if they send a message on Facebook, because when you send the message on Facebook, it pops up right here on the phone. So, and I can't get away from this thing. So you're gonna get me if you Facebook message me.
If he didn't answer the phone in 2 rings.
Now, if I'm up underneath of something and it's 30 degrees out like it is today, and I've got on 2 hoodies and the long leather coat, and it's in my pocket, and I'm laying underneath the vehicle, and I'm twisted around, and it's sandwiched poor old phone sandwiched between me and the floor. You know, it might get muffled a little bit, and it might be later on that night when I'm looking through my phone before I see your message. But otherwise, Facebook is going to get to me.
Yeah, like I said, you can't get away from that Facebook Messenger.
Right, and we're easy transport on eBay, and especially if you're an international customer, because the only international shipping I do is through this wonderful, lovely thing that they call the eBay International Hub. And man, I tell you what, if you want to sell anything and you want to be able to sell internationally, set you up an eBay store and use their international hub, because if your international customers will buy something from you, your shipping will be to the hub, which on the East Coast here is Kentucky, which ends up being cheaper shipping than a lot of other places in the United States, because we're in Georgia, and shipping it from Georgia to Kentucky is pretty cheap. Then eBay charges the customer whatever fees and international shipping, and they know all the legalities, and they do all the paperwork perfectly correctly, and charge all the fees and hand all over the money to the government, and it's all taken care of. You don't have to know how to do it. You don't have to handle it. You don't have to keep hold of any paperwork. It's all done right. And it's just, it's like shipping right here to the United States, because that's what all you do, and they take care of the rest. And then it's
Fantastic.
done.
Great. So again, contact Victor Sane on his Facebook page. Victor Sane, S-A-N-E is his last name. Victor,
Yep.
we have another audience question.
Camero Time wants to know if the TV car shows have affected the market price of cars.
Camero Time wants to know if the television car shows has affected the market price of cars.
You would know more about that than I would.
Yeah.
I haven't watched television in 10 years.
Great question. Great question. Yes and no. To the average Joe that's watching that show, he sees some of the inflated, extreme, and blown up prices that are just not realistic with the market. And then they'll contact me looking for an appraisal on the car. I get very specific with them on the phone so we can iron out all the kinks, determine exactly what is needed from the customer. And I can, give a fairly decent range. Your car is going to be between these two parameters based on the information that you've provided to me. And the guy says, oh, geez, I see, double that on the, this car on television on that particular show. They sold that car for 2 or 3 times what you're telling me. Yep. Although it's called reality television, it's an oxymoron because it is not reality television. Some of the prices that they claim that they have sold these cars for, it simply just doesn't happen. And certainly not by the masses. If you can sign up at an auction site, you can review cars by the thousands to see what they sold for. There's a big debate as to whether or not an auction sale price is realistic of a market value. But keep this in mind. At an auction, it is real people with real money buying a real car. So, granted, there are times that people pay extreme amounts at an auction. And if you're sitting in the audience, like I do, any auction that I go to, I try and get a bird's eye view, see what's going on. You just may have 2 people, big money guys that are battling back and forth to, just simply outbid each other, just show who's got deeper pockets. And it's more of a, I'm bigger, I'm better than you thing than being realistic to a market value. If I told you that I saw a Ford Pinto sell in the $60,000 range, that is a perfect example of just 2 guys going head to head. It happened. It happened.
I've also seen another thing that has to do with that, and it's not just cars. Sometimes they'll have an auction and that's charity benefit as well, or a portion of it goes to a charity benefit. And sometimes the bidders will overbid on purpose because they know that some or all of that money is going to that charity.
Absolutely.
And so you'll end up with a much inflated price that's just not going to happen with whatever vehicle I have or item I have. I'm not expecting to ever get that kind of price from it because, you know, I'm selling it. There's probably not going to be a charity involved.
Right.
So
that is an absolutely fantastic point. And thank you for bringing that in, because that actually escaped my mind. But you are absolutely dead on. A lot of the charity cars are for a nonprofit, you know, a true 501c, and the bidder has the ability to write that off from a business standpoint. So yeah, they will bid extremely high. You know, some of them are just looking for a write-off on their tax return. And what better than to, you know, get your write-off as a donation to this particular nonprofit and get an automobile or a motorcycle in the process. At the MCACN auction, they take a MCACN neon sign. Dana MCACN signs the back, and then they put that up for auction. And I believe that charity is called Curing Kids Cancer. That's a fantastic organization. And every MCACN auction, there's participation to raise money for that particular charity. Again, nonprofit. All the money that you're spending buying an item, whether it be that neon sign, a car. Heck, I've even seen guys pay, you know, say $80,000 for a car, turn around and donate the car right back to the charity, and they bring it for auction a second time at the same auction, and they just bring in more money. So yeah, thank you, Victor. That was a great tip.
Without mentioning the name.
Bob's got something for us. What do you got, Bob?
Without mentioning a name, Tom, the TV car shows have been good for you because you do a lot of appraisals for those folks.
Yes. Without, you know, my business is private to a lot of my customers. There's a lot of things that I do with private collections that I just simply don't talk about. Some of them are involved in the TV world, and I'm very fortunate to have them as customers. Just makes my smile even bigger when I get to be involved with those people. But yeah, that has brought business my way. So, you know, some of these TV guys, they build a car, they sell a car. Customer needs to have it insured properly. In order to get proper insurance, it needs to be properly documented. And that's one of the services that I provide at Muscle Car Appraisal. As a matter of fact, I'm in the process of helping out Lester. As you saw earlier in the video, some of his cars are pretty radical, very purpose-built, very specific, high performance, true muscle. You know, he's got a great name for his business, Muscle Car Specialties. All his cars are special, purpose-built, and they run and drive out on the street with no issues at all. Insurance company really doesn't understand why that one particular car has a value that is out of the norm compared to all the rest. His maroon 1970 Chevelle. Maybe to some, it just kind of looks like a normal Chevelle, but there's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of parts, a lot of things going on with that car. It's not a $35,000 Chevelle Super Sport. So I prepare a very detailed and lengthy appraisal on the car, provide it to Lester. He provides it to his insurance company, and he's able to insure the car for a proper value. So
you mentioned something before in one of our conversations about the importance of the receipts
Type them in the chat.
of the stuff on the car and the value.
Lester, yourself, or Victor.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, Victor?
You had mentioned something in one of our conversations before about the importance of keeping the receipts as part of the documentation and the value of the vehicle. It makes a difference.
Yes. When I come along, I can see from the outside a lot of things on the build of the car. You know, carburetor, exhaust, distributor. I can see markings on cylinder heads, kind of tell what they are. I can see headers, rear end, springs, you know, a whole bunch of things. Does it have coilovers or not? Is it a 3-link ladder bar rear? Is it a 4-link fully adjustable? All kinds of things I can see, but there are certain things that I cannot see. You know, what pistons are in it, what valves are in it, what camshaft is in it, what rear end gear, things inside the transmission. If there are receipts, I always read every single one of them. I'm not necessarily concerned as to how much you paid, because sometimes people will get a huge discount. You know, Lester, he's buying parts all the time. He's connected with parts suppliers. More than likely, they give him a sizable discount because he's a frequent flyer. Versus the guy that they've never seen before, he just may pay a different price, but they get the same exact part. And the bottom line is that particular part is in that particular build. So I'm more interested in the part, the hardware, the specifics of what it is versus the price. So yeah, if you have receipts, by all means, keep them. I will read every single one of them. As we move along here, you know, if there's more questions that people have, you know, please feel free to write them down in the chat. If by chance we happen to miss out on one or two of them, we'll go back, we'll read every single one of them and reply accordingly. If there's something very interesting, we'll just bring that into our next show and bring that up for a topic of discussion.
If you like what we've done, give us a thumbs up on our video.
Yeah, if you like this video, certainly give us a thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, we certainly appreciate you for being there. And if you're not a subscriber, again, liked what we did here this evening, hit that subscription button. Go back, check out our videos, and you know, by all means, contact us, send us any questions you have about the appraisal business. Could even be something about a simple collision loss that you had. If you have questions about how your insurance company is handling the claim, something that your body shop is telling you, if you're looking for some hints on the technology that's in cars today, by all means, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you out.
Possible trivia answer.
Okay, Bob has a possible trivia answer. What do we got, Bob?
Didn't the high horsepower 65 396 engine go away in 1966 to a 427 cube inch for the full-size Chevy and Corvette?
The 396 was still available. The question was, did the high horsepower 396 in 1965 go away in 1966, giving way to a 427? In 66, a 396 was still available in a Chevelle and in a full-size Chevrolet car. In the Corvette, let's see, was it 396? In 66, they had 427s. Different horsepower 427s. They were not all tri-power cars. But it seems to be, and Lester, you've probably noticed this, there's more tri-power cars on the road now than Chevrolet ever made.
There's more Chevelle S's that were ever produced. There's more Shelby GTs that were ever produced. It's kind of funny how that works out over the years, you know?
Yeah. Everywhere you go, you could see one of those cars.
Didn't you say it was an internal engine change that happened?
Yeah, from 65 to 66, the 375 horse motor had one specific part that changed. And it's a tough question.
Something from going from solid lifters to hydraulic lifters.
Bingo, there you go.
Ah, did I really get that?
Absolutely. Victor.
There's stuff in there
right on the head.
Around. I don't know that it's in there.
In 1965, the 375 horse 396 in a Z16 Chevelle had a hydraulic lifter camshaft. And in 1966, same engine, same horsepower, but they switched to a solid lifter camshaft. I don't know, Victor. I guess, am I going to owe you a prize now?
Well, I built engines before I built transmissions, so.
Oh.
And before that, brakes and undercar care, exhaust work, suspension work. I did 13 years of that before I ever touched a transmission. And then I did 25 years of transmissions. But the first year I built transmissions was in 91. And that was when I got the gold, because I had one more certification in order to get my master's. And so I've been master certified ever since, and that was 1991. And then I started an epic journey of going to seminars, both transmission training seminars and management and sales seminars. Every year I spent about $1,600 a year on training seminars to keep up with the new technology that was coming out with the transmissions, because transmissions were changing so rapidly at the time. And I don't know, you could probably put together a trivia question or two with some of this information for future videos, but 1980 was the first time that federally mandated that everybody had to have the lockup torque converters. They also, most of the transmissions came out that were mainstream, that were overdrive, but of course that was not really a new thing. You would know this of all people. I mean, there were quite a few vehicles that had overdrive transmissions as far back as I know, as far back as the 40s and 50s. But I haven't worked on any of those. It would be nice to have gotten into one of those, but I never did.
Probably a lot simpler than what you did. I would believe the technology.
Well, some of that stuff
would be.
Some of that older stuff that did have the lockup torque converters and stuff from the 50s was actually more complicated than the newer stuff. Really? Now, the control systems that controlled it, all the sensors and stuff that were on the engines control it, and then later the computer controls, more complicated. But as far as inside the transmission, they were doing a lot of complicated things to try to do all this stuff mechanically without any computer controls. And so, as you can imagine, that was some pretty complicated stuff.
Well, I know.
And they were still using some brass clutches and material and stuff like that back then. Even into the mid 60s, you'd still find like some of those old FMX transmissions, brass clutch material. Instead of
when did you retire from building transmissions on a daily basis for a living?
2015, I think it was the last year that I was building. And I didn't do quite as many units that year as I had previously done, because the previous year and all the years before that, for about 25 years, I did 400 to 600 units a year. And yeah, that was major repairs, complete rebuilds, not counting any of the minor repairs, the small, numerous. There's no way I could count how many small repairs that we did. Kept a 13-bay shop full.
Did you ever get into any of the modern muscle car stuff, like the newer Camaros or the Challengers?
Most of it,
the Mustangs.
The most modern stuff I got into was when some of the stuff we started seeing ZF units showing up in this and that kind of stuff. Anything later than the ZF units, I haven't gotten into. Some of those 8 speeds and stuff like that. Now, I did have some training on them, but they're more reliable too. You'd think it would be worse because they are more complicated. There are more things to go wrong.
Also more precise.
They are more precise, and that makes a huge difference. And we saw the stuff that came out in the 80s, especially the early 80s, when mainstream overdrive and mainstream lockup torque converters and stuff was new. And as far as being just mass produced throughout a wide range of vehicles, was new. There were lots and lots of problems that were solved later, first with aftermarket companies and aftermarket parts like Sonex, and then later by GM, Ford, and Chrysler, and of course the imports. So you would see like this huge increase in durability in like 1986, and later you have this second generation like the 700 R4s and the AODs. Then you'd had third generation of those units from around 1991 to 93. Then you have this massive changeover to lots more electronics in 92 and 93, and they become like the 4L60Es and stuff. And then those have another great leap in technology and improvements in 96 and later. And then again in 2000, a lot of things changed. And so a lot of these changes on these parts that make them so much better and more durable will actually fit in the earlier units if you know what you're doing. And
Great.
so like some of the earlier transmission 700 R4s, you could replace virtually everything in the transmission with layer model parts that are better parts and have almost nothing of the original everything except the case and the valve body. It'd just be about the only thing that's original. and you'd have much better transmission, but it's not much left of beginning.
Whatever it takes to make it work and last.
Right. But now, by the time they started putting in these later modern muscle cars, and they had to, because fast improvement in the engines all along while this was happening with the transmissions, just unheard of improvement in and the horsepower that these things put out now. You absolutely have to have better transmissions now.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
this is one of the things that has happened with the transmission industry as a whole, that happened to the engine rebuilding companies before it started happening to the transmission shops. And that is like years ago, before I retired from doing the building and continued selling the parts, and the parts sales took off, we were already seeing this because I already sold parts, already had a separate company and a separate building selling parts. And it used to be that when we didn't have quite as much in the service department, we could make up for it because the other builders were buying from our parts company. And when they weren't buying from our parts company, it was because we had all the business. And so it kind of evened the money out a little bit, having a parts company and the service department at the same time. But then it got to where it was just lower and lower on both. And it was because part of it was because the failure rates were going down, because the transmissions that finally shifted from spending so much time on improving things in the transmission in order to make the engine last longer and get the RPMs down and the heat down and keep the engine lasting longer, to improving things in the transmission to make the transmission itself last longer. And then,
Gotcha.
and so
we have a question from the audience for you, Victor.
all right, sounds good.
Question.
Camaro Time wants to know what made you get into the transmission field.
Camaro Time wants to know what made you get into the transmission field. You had mentioned you were building engines prior to transmissions. Well, by the way, obviously your time building engines and your memory served you well this evening, because you're the one that came up with the trivia question answer. But what made you switch into transmissions?
One huge contributing factor was I was so close to having my master's, and I needed that one certification. But more than that, I had done everything there was to do in the automotive repair business for many years. And the only thing that I hadn't tackled was transmission. And you hear this just about every garage, everywhere. And I was still kind of young back then. And you hear this from even the older guys who've been in the industry all their lives. I won't touch anything in a transmission. I have nothing to do with transmissions. I'm not touching transmissions. No, don't even talk to me about transmissions. They want nothing to do with it. And for good reason, because it has just as much potential for loss as it does for gain. I mean, you either score 100% on your transmission build or you fail miserably. It's like that engine you were talking about. It can come back way worse than it was before you touched it. If you do the wrong thing, you could actually end up doing more damage than it ever had before you worked on it. And that's expensive gamble right there. And it's
Absolutely.
very time consuming. And like I said, I had to go to training seminars every year just to keep up with the new stuff that was coming out. And I feel for these guys that are doing this today, right now, and trying to keep up with everything. But there was that gap right there, and I wanted to close that gap. So I went for it. And the first transmission I built had 5 layers of valve body. It's a front wheel drive. It's 1991. It's one of the first ones that had electronics and everything. That if anybody, even guys that had been building transmissions for years, were complaining about, oh man, these front wheel drive things, I'm gonna get out of this business and front wheel drive stuff, and now they're putting all these electronics on it. No, I don't want nothing to do with this anymore. It's just getting too complicated. I'm gonna have to get out of this. So here I was, young and arrogant and full of spit and vinegar, and I'm like, I'm just gonna give it a try. You know, I'm gonna try it. And I get this thing back together after 2 days of solid working on it. And I'm like, I've got 2 whole days invested in this, you know, late days. So, you know, 10, 12-hour days. This doesn't work. And I'm probably going to be crushed. I get in that car, I go down the road, and it shifted nice, crisp, and clean, just one right after the other. And way better than the newer cars. You get in the newer cars back then, and they have these sloppy, mushy shifts and stuff. It was nice, crisp, and clean. And I'm like, and I remember, I mean, seeing all over that table. It was actually 2 tables, one workbench full of stuff and some stuff on another half of workbench full, a roll cart over here with stuff on it, spread out all over the place, all this stuff. And I put all that back together and made it work perfectly. I was hooked. I was jacked up. I was like, I got the lottery ticket or something. I did that. I put that monstrosity together correctly enough to have it working better than any transmission I'd ever felt before. And it was just way more difficult, way more complicated than anything I'd ever done on a vehicle before. And I did it right. And it felt great. And I was just elated. And I wanted to feel that again. And I wanted to feel it again and again and again. And so I guess, you know, the amount of struggle, like they say in athletics, martial arts and everything, the amount of struggle sometimes equals the reward. And
I was the same way, building engines. You know, everybody was street racing back in the early 80s.
mm-hmm.
We didn't do that.
Oh, you never did that?
No.
All right. All right. So I guess me and just that other guy, we were too.
Some guy that will remain unnamed.
Yeah. And so I built an engine, and it ran like a bear, crossed the line first. Well, then he approaches me and says, all right, obviously I need more power. Can you help me out? Well, one thing leads to another. I built him an engine. He goes out, wins the race. The guy, the loser, everybody that lost seemed to be coming to me saying, hey, you know what's in his engine. You know my car. So now I need you to build me something that is going to be able to beat him, because there's a rematch coming up, but I need more power. So and every time I built an engine, they put it in the car, I went for a ride, and just like you said, Victor, that feeling of satisfaction saying, I'm the one that built this and made it run like this, it truly gives you a really good feeling. And I kind of get that.
I do want to say kudos to the guy, Preston Farmer, who hired me in his transmission shop and taught me how to build those first transmissions and took that chance on me. I know he doesn't watch YouTube, and so he'll probably never see this, but I would be remiss, and I would regret it if I didn't give kudos to him for doing that and you know, opening up that world to me, that transmission world.
He was a good mentor, taught you the right way, and it served you well through your career.
Absolutely.
Bob says we have another question from the audience.
We have two questions.
We have two, actually.
And before you go there, you want to remind everybody you're going to be here next Wednesday with a surprise guest.
Okay. As a reminder, next Wednesday, we're going to be here again, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we have a surprise guest. It's so surprising, Bob didn't even tell me yet. All right. Lester has a question from the audience.
Okay.
What's the fastest car you've ever owned?
What's the fastest car you've ever owned, Lester?
Fastest car that I've ever owned to date was going to be a 69 Camaro. We ran 880s with the car.
And you drove that on the street, I suppose?
Absolutely.
Is there anything you have that you've owned that you haven't driven on the street?
My Pro Mod. That's because I didn't have my dealer plate right. I didn't have an extra dealer plate at the time, but I do now.
So that'll be on the street.
That'll be on the street. Yep.
So 1969 Camaro.
Yep.
Ran 880s.
Yep.
On the street.
Yep. That was a 572 with a fogger system on it. That car ran very well.
That's quite impressive. What's the next question, Bob? John M says,
are Super B parts hard to get?
Are Super B parts hard to get? Good question, John.
I don't have any.
Victor doesn't have any.
I have some. I have some Roadrunner parts too. I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
Victor has some. Yeah, John, why don't you contact Lester and tell him what you need? Maybe he's got something in the stash for you.
Maybe Lester can buy my inventory. I won't have to move it.
I have so much inventory right now. Oh my God. I'm a kind of a hoarder.
I believe you.
A lot of car guys are.
We're probably kindred spirits.
Yeah. John, and in reference to your Super B parts, the internet is going to be your friend. I am very detailed in my inspections and my appraisals, and I try and get the background on the car. The more information I have, the more detailed, the more thorough, and the better my appraisal is. And it also helps with the bottom line of the value of the car, because there may be something, a car with aftermarket quarter panels versus a car with OEM sheet metal, there's definitely going to be a difference in the desirability to collectors or buyers. And there's also going to be a reflection in the price. Somebody's going to pay more money for a car with OEM sheet metal rather than aftermarket sheet metal.
So keep
With
your
that being
receipts.
said, the internet's going to be your friend. You're going to search long and hard for certain things, but keep at it. Spread the word around. Make some wanted ads. Get onto the Mopar specific sites. Make yourself known there. Again, ask people to put the word out for you. Give them your contact information so they can get back in touch with you. Some of the stuff that has been located through friends, through the internet. And
comment below the videos. There's a lot of hashtag Mopar community people on our channels, your channel and mine, in the Insane Friends.
Yeah, there's
So
Mopar.
put comments on their videos saying what you're looking for.
By all means, put something on Facebook, put something out on Craigslist, get into those specific Mopar chat forums. That's a great resource. And then you can also make contact with some of the Mopar specific restoration specialists. Mark Warman out at Graveyard Cars. Talk about hoarders. I can only imagine what the man has. He's putting the car together the right way. A lot of background, a lot of knowledge. Even some engine builders. A guy like Ray Barton, world known for building a really strong Hemi engine. His contact to the Mopar community is absolutely phenomenal. I had the fortunate experience of going to lunch with him one day, and we started talking about what people have in their garages, and he started to rattle off some very, very rare Chrysler, Dodge, Plymouth cars in garages. Now, he knows these people personally because he's done their engine work. The cars are generally not out in public. They're not shown. They're not driven. They're showpieces in a garage somewhere, well kept. And Ray is aware of them because he was involved in some way, shape, or form of the build of the car. So even reaching out to, somebody that's heavily involved in the Mopar community, I imagine there's almost nothing out there that you can't get. Even a guy, A, B, and E parts, A body, B body, E body. I'm at a loss for words. He would kill me if he found out that I was talking about him and didn't remember his name. And to add to the fact, I have an appraisal in process on his very rare AAR CUDA. So I guess I'm going to be in the doghouse on that one. But anyway, he remanufactures some high quality parts for A, B, and E body cars. With that being said, maybe you're looking for an NOS piece. Because of his background, because of his involvement, because of his exposure to the world, he would be, I think it's Brian is his name. He would be a good resource. So again, it's who you know, who you talk to, who you reach out to. But don't be bashful to send me an email telling me what you're looking for. And every now and then I get a couple extra minutes, and I'll be happy to put out a word to some people that I know, and let's see if we can find the part you're looking for. You had another question, Bob?
Yes, we do.
Let it fly.
Ask anybody that wants to be on one of our future shows to reach out to you through your email.
Not necessarily a question, but some good information. Anybody out in our audience that would like to be a guest on one of our future shows, reach out to me at info@musclecarappraisal.net. And if you happen to forget the email address, just go to musclecarappraisal.net. Our contact information is there. Give us a shout. Let us know you're interested. We'll make contact with you. We'll chat about it and see if we get you on the show.
They want to know if Lester's ever been on TV.
Lester, have you ever been on TV?
No.
You are now.
TV has not been that unlucky enough yet.
Carol Sane has a question.
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. It is past my bedtime.
Yeah,
I
she's
must
falling
leave
out.
you.
Okay.
I
Are
apologize.
you asking permission to leave?
I was just wanting to tell you good night.
Okay. Well,
And
it's
you
been an
can-
absolute pleasure having the both of you on. And we look forward. We had such a good time. We'll probably do it again at some point in the future.
That would be awesome.
So thank you both very much for being on.
Thank you, Lester.
Thank you for having us.
All righty. So everybody can check out Victor Sane on his Facebook page for contact info at Victor Sane. Check out all his friends at #InsaneFriends. At the beginning of this video, where Victor came in, sent out a video with a schedule, 6 days a week. showing all the Insane friends in their live times on their respective YouTube channels. So again, thank you to Victor and all his friends and his crew for their support. And we ask all of you out in the muscle car appraisal audience to give some love back to Victor and his hashtag Insane Friends group. So, Lester, certainly appreciate you being here with me this evening. I have a couple other questions for you, though.
Sure.
Earlier, we talked about basically you can obtain a car, build a car, provide a customer a car that is turnkey.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about carburetors. So you got a good carburetor guy to make it a 3-circuit carb, so it's mildly mannered on the show. Can I assume that you're into the EFI world as well?
Getting into the EFI world right now. A couple of my new builds are going to have them. You know, we've been looking at the Holley system. I use Paul up at Total Induction Solutions, Timing Solutions. He's going to be up and located next to MRC, next to Marco up there.
Okay.
I've had great results with carburetors all my life with everything I've ever done with them. You know, they're quicker throttle response in an EFI system, not as efficient. It's kind of the old adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Gotcha.
I've had really good results with carburetors. So it's something new for me. The twin turbo build is going to be an EFI car, throttle body, you know, the whole 9 yards. So that'll be my first venture into there and really getting into it. I'm behind the 8 ball that everybody else does, but I am very comfortable with what we were doing.
Yeah. And you got Paul. Paul's got your back.
Paul's phenomenal. Paul actually did a bunch of work on the red Chevelle, the red Chevelle I had in this past year before I brought it down to Florida down there. And the car runs, it's never run better since he's had his hands on it. So it's nice to go there and learn something. You're always learning, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to learn something new every day. How about dyno pulls? Does Paul have that availability as well?
Yep.
He's got an in-house dyno.
Yes, he does.
Tune on the dyno. He can tune your EFI. You can tune your carburetor. Right next door to him is MRC, Marco Race Cars that we mentioned earlier. So you can, Victor, both Victor and myself have business relationships with these gentlemen. So you can get a fantastic chassis built. Lester takes care of the engine build, gets it in the car.
Best part about Paul as well, you give him a call 2-3 months down the road, you have some questions for him. His support and continued support on it is fantastic. I can't say enough about the guy. He's helped me out in several pinches where I'm stumped and I can't do it.
Nice. I know he's been around for a long time,
yeah.
So he's not a fly-by-night type of guy. So, if you do get involved in his work, he's going to be there to give you the support that you need to carry you through the years to come. So, Bob's got another question for Lester.
GM guy, because he likes Fords also.
Are you strictly a GM guy, or do you like Ford? Actually, you have a
Roadrunner
in your
actually
shop.
a pair of 70 Roadrunners, so I am not a strictly GM guy. I am currently searching for a 68 Fastback, so a daily driver car, something I can drive around. I haven't found one that I've liked. I have too many sticks in the fire right now to go ahead and build myself one or to do one, so I've been looking for one.
Okay.
So I am definitely not strictly a GM guy. I appreciate everything from modern muscle to classic cars to muscle to everything. So I don't really have one specific thing that I have to have or I'm prejudiced toward.
Okay, 68 Fastback.
68 Fastback, yeah.
Color preference or an engine preference?
You know,
stick, automatic. Tell the world what you want.
I prefer a 390 car. Prefer an automatic, so when my wife wants to drive it, I don't have to put a clutch in it. So I hope she's not watching.
You have to bring flowers on the way home.
Color preference doesn't matter to me. I can paint the car down the road. That's not an issue. But yeah, it's probably my favorite Ford car is going to be a 68 Fastback.
I know a beautiful black on black 68 390 car, but it's a convertible.
Oh, my wife would want that.
Okay, so do you got to buy his and hers?
No.
One for you, one for her? You don't have to do
I
that?
can't afford her. I buy her too much. No.
Right. So can she afford her own?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she's definitely got the money.
Well, tell her to call me tomorrow. I'll hook her up with this car. I did a thorough inspection on the car. It's a factory sheet metal car, solid. Was not originally a black car, but it was changed to a black car. And really, really, really nice car.
You know, I'm not going to tell her, right?
No?
No, God, no.
You think she's going to watch this?
I hope not, hon.
You got to hide the computer in the house now so she can't go
I
online.
just bought her a
and
new
watch the
purse.
video?
She's all set for at least 2 weeks.
She's got a new purse. Well,
Yeah.
she needs to put the new purse into the new Mustang that
The
she
purse was as much as one of my transmissions. No.
has. Okay, Bob, you got another question for us?
Randy Collins, our musician friend.
Randy Collins,
Our musician friend.
our musician friend.
That's the question.
He's got comments for us all the time. He watches all of our videos. Okay, Randy, what do you got for us?
Synthetic or high zinc oil for old engines?
Synthetic or high zinc oil for old engines. You got to have the zinc. Absolutely. Old flat tappet, whether it be solid or hydraulic, has to have zinc. Over the years, for emissions purposes, the oil companies eliminated the zinc from the oil. So now you have a choice. You can buy oil from Joe Gibbs. You can buy oil from Hemmings. There's a couple other sources as well that have the zinc right in the quart of oil.
Valvoline does it. Brad Penn does it. There's a lot of guys out there now.
Yep. So there's a lot of sources to get it with the zinc right in the quart of oil. Or you can buy a conventional oil without zinc and then buy a bottle of zinc additive. One of the most popular is ZDDP. You can find that all over the place online. And you just add that in with your oil change. But yeah, absolutely, an older engine definitely wants to have zinc. Whether you're running synthetic or old school conventional oil, they're both going to need to have zinc. Got another one, Bob?
We have a question for Camaro time.
Okay.
We have a question for them.
We have a question for Camaro time.
Would you be willing to be on one of our future shows?
Oh. Would you, Camaro time, be willing to be on one of our future shows? We've watched your videos, high tech, great editing, fantastic information about Camaros. I'd love to have you on. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I got hooked because my first ride in a hot rod car was in a '68 Camaro. So would love to have you on the show. We'd have a great time. And we can probably capture some Mopar and Ford fans as well. It doesn't need to be strictly Camaros, but absolutely would love to have you on the show.
Okay, and thank Jim from Video Call-In Show one more time.
Absolutely. Once again, we are truly indebted to Jim from the Video Call-In Show. He's on weeknights, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Video Call-In Show. He is producing this evening's show. If it was not for him, we wouldn't be here. Absolutely fantastic guy. Been in the digital world, the television world, the computer world. The guy truly knows what he's doing. Absolutely fantastic guy. I cannot express my thanks, and Bob is the same, for him stepping up to the plate, making us an offer, putting the show together for us this evening. Again, Jim, I know you're lurking out there. You're the one running all the controls. There he is.
Speaking of the devil.
Again, thank you. And it's been made known in some of Jim's videos and in some of mine that I will be attending the MCACN auction in Indianapolis in May of this year. Absolutely fantastic. 2,000 cars. It's MCACN's second biggest auction. I have an absolutely great time there. Jim lives in the area. We're going to connect, and I think I'm going to owe him dinner. You know, maybe before it was just a lunch, but now it's going to be dinner along with lunch.
Oh yeah, you're paying.
And I'm paying, and I don't think I can put a restriction on the menu saying, you know, Jim, just stay to the appetizer side.
Oh man,
No,
you're lucky I'm not going to that.
I think it's just carte blanche, whatever he wants. And truly indebted to you, Jim. Thank you very much. And to all our subscribers that have shown support by watching our videos, leaving the comments, giving us the thumbs up, hitting the bell, coming back time and time again to watch our videos. The number of thumbs up that we get is incredible. The comments are truly appreciated. They're numerous, so we know that you're out there watching. We know that you're paying attention. We're truly grateful that you're enjoying the channel. Again, before we leave, Lester, why don't you give everybody your contact information, including your business name?
Once again, folks, thank you very much. Muscle Car Specialties, LLC.com is the website. You can hit us up on Facebook at Muscle Car Specialties. Best way to get in contact with us, believe it or not, is through Facebook. Send us a message, post up a comment or anything like that. We also have our phone number on there also. Give us a call. Give us some chance to get back to you. We answer every single email we have, regardless of what it is.
Full service shop. Lester can, put together a factory appearing restoration. Oh, excuse me. He can build you something mild for the street, and he can put together something very radical for you as well.
Yeah, we have constant new pictures up there. There's constant builds coming into the shop. I think we just put up a bunch of pictures again on that 67 that we're working on. We have another 67 Pro Street Camaro that's in there right now getting updated, and a paint job as well. So there's a bunch of stuff going on there. You'll see Paul's car, which is at Malibu, which was in an accident. That is going to be, we're starting to put that back together. He finally stopped. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this as well? So we finally had him down there and said, okay, this is it. Give me the list of what needs to get done so I can get it finished for you. Otherwise, it'll be here for 5 years.
Absolutely. If somebody has a car that was built many, many years ago, and they're looking to update it, maybe with an OD transmission.
For simple stuff. Could be a wheel and tire change, could be an interior update, could be some paint work, could be, whatever they want to do. Everybody has a different need and a different want, a different desire, and it's my job to go ahead and see if I can make that happen for them.
And it seems with everything that I checked out in the business, again, basically turnkey, start to finish, no matter whether it's basic or completely radical. He was driving an 880 car on the street. So he can pretty much build whatever you need. Again, Lester, thank you very much for being here. I truly appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. I had a good time.
Looking forward to stopping by the shop and seeing builds in progress.
Bring lunch.
I'll bring you lunch. Okay.
On Thursdays.
On Thursdays, lunch. All right. I'll have to write that down over here. And I'll bring my camera, maybe take a video or two, and put that up on the channel and get you some exposure there. And it'll give me an easy video too.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
I'll bring you lunch while you guys are quiet in the office. I'll be roaming around the shop.
Somewhere else. We're going to be, let's see, what is the 6th of next month coming up, that Ground Up Restoration.
Yes.
Their Winter Expo. We're going to have a booth going over there. We'll have a couple cars over there and be there all day on Saturday.
Yeah,
showing some stuff off and giving out some advertising, POP and stuff.
Yeah. Ground Up Restoration. Their website is called ss396.com. They supply restoration parts for Camaros, Chevelles, El Caminos, Novas. Very popular. Hoping to get one of those guys on here as a guest. Maybe
Phil was going to come with me tonight. He couldn't make it, unfortunately. I have one small child. He has two.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that.
Enough said.
Yes.
We all know what that there's.
Sometimes
there's
a little more difficult.
2 more full-time jobs that Phil has. Beyond going to work at the shop on a daily basis, when he gets home, double time. So at some point in the future, we hope to get Phil on the channel and talk about Ground Up Restoration, what they have for parts, vendors, customer service. And as Lester said, they're having an open house on April 6th.
I'm pretty sure it's April 6th.
I think that's what the date is.
I'm
it's a Friday and a Saturday. You wanna check that out? And
check it out right now.
Both Lester and I will be there as vendors. So if you happen to be local and you want to stop by and ask us any questions, we're happy to help. You get to check out the facility as well. Maybe we'll make a video when we're there.
I'm up for that one.
Okay, and it is in fact April 6th.
We're not bringing Rob though.
We're not bringing Rob.
No.
We're going to make Rob work that day.
Yeah, everyone can work every day.
We're going to make him work every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lester has to crack the whip. That 57 Chevy that we showcased a little earlier, that got in the door. It got right back out the door. And it was because Rob was in there working hard, getting it done. They met the time frame deadline, and everybody was happy. So again, Lester, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Jim from Video Call-In Show, thank you again. We hope that all our viewers this evening hop over to your channel tomorrow night and join in the conversation. So again, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Victor.
Enjoy the evening.